Hello mythology lovers. Welcome to World of Mythology. Today's video is about 12 powerful Greek gods. Many thousands of years ago, there lived a race of people who were called Ions. Ions believed everything was alive. When they looked up into the sky, where white clouds were moving, they believed that they saw a sea in which ships were sailing, and, if the clouds were numerous and moved by the wind, they believed that they saw cows driven by invisible herdsmen. In their eyes, the dark storm clouds were gigantic birds which flew over the sky, carrying worms in their beaks. The lightning flashes were worms which these birds sometimes let fall, or, the lightning flashes were fish, darting through the sea of cloud, or a spear, or a serpent. The storm cloud was a dragon. Ions were never tired of looking at the sky. In time, they came to think that the bright blue sky of the day was a person, and named him Father Zeus, which means Father Sky, saying that the sky seemed so high above everything else, that Father Zeus ruled over all things. They also called the sun a shining wanderer, the golden-eyed and golden-handed god. They said that the darkness of the night was a serpent, slain by their sun god's arrow. A time came when many tribes of this Aryan race moved to other lands. Some of them settled in the land we now call Greece, taking with them their numerous stories of sky, clouds, of Father Zeus, and the herdsmen of the cloud cattle, and the golden-eyed sun god. In Greece, these stories were handed down from one generation to another, through thousands of years, and while those who told stories undoubtedly believed that every word was true, and tried to tell stories exactly as they heard. However, in time the stories changed and grew. After the Ions moved to Greece, they lived in that country for a long time. They forgot that Father Zeus was the blue sky. Instead of calling him by his old name, they started calling Father Zeus as Father Zeus, the king and the father of gods and men, while other Aryan tribes, who were afterward called Romans, knew him as Jupiter. In the same way, these people forgot that the herdsmen who drove the cloud cattle were wind. They believed wind was a real person, or god, and called him Hermes or Mercury. In this way, old Greeks believed in many gods. It was a long time before they knew about the true God. According to the ancient Greeks, Zeus was the king and father of gods and men. He, with other gods, lived high up on Mount Olympus, above the clouds. He was by far the strongest of gods and his weapon was the thunderbolts. Greeks believed that the lightning flash was a kind of magic stone, shaped like an arrow or spear, which Zeus threw at his enemies, or at wrongdoers. Neptune and Pluto were brothers of Jupiter Zeus. Neptune ruled the sea, and Pluto was the king of the underworld, a dark, gloomy place where people were supposed to go after death. Juno was Zeus's queen, and the most powerful of the goddesses. Minerva was the goddess of wisdom, of war, for a right cause, and of the arts of peace. She gave the olive tree to the Greeks, and taught the Greek women how to spin and weave. She was the special protector and helper of heroes. Apollo was the god of prophecy, music, and poetry. Later, he was the god of the sun, especially of the light which comes from the sun, while Helios was the god of sun itself. The rays of sunlight, which might sometimes be seen across a dark cloud, were Apollo's golden arrows. These arrows might bring death to mortals. Diana was the twin sister of Apollo. Just as Apollo was the god of light of sun, she was the goddess of the light of the moon. While Selene was the real moon goddess, and was the goddess of the moon itself. Diana was a huntress, who wandered over the mountains, carrying a bow and a quiver full of silver arrows. Her silver arrows, like Apollo's golden ones, were sometimes used to punish the guilty. She wore a crown shaped like a moon and her favorite animal was the stag. Venus was the goddess of love and beauty. She was born from the foam of the sea, and was the most beautiful of all goddesses. When she went abroad, her chariot was drawn by doves and surrounded by flocks of little singing birds. Mars was the god of war in a bad sense. He loved fighting and bloodshed for its own sake. Mercury was the herald and swift-footed messenger of the gods. He was the patron of herdsmen, travelers, and rogues. He wore a winged cap and winged sandals, and carried, as the sign of his office, a golden wand or staff, which has two wings at the top and two snakes entwined around it. The staff was called Caduceus. Ceres was the goddess of all that grows out of the earth, and was called the Great Mother. Besides these great ones, there were others, not so strong and wonderful, who instead of living on Mount Olympus, had their homes in certain quiet places of the earth. These humbler ones were called nymphs, fauns, satyrs, river gods, and trutons. In those days, there were no solitary places, even the desert had its giants and its pygmies. That time of which the old myths tell us must have been wonderful indeed. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below, and do press the bell icon for more updates.